Every offshore oil rig is a floating town of 100 people who cannot escape each other. The application process tests whether you can survive the moon. By the end of this, you will understand why rig companies care more about your ability to argue about imaginary oxygen tanks with strangers than whether you can operate a wrench, and what it is actually like to live in a place where the galley chef controls morale. Your roommate works the opposite shift so you never see him awake, and the nearest hospital is 4 hours away by helicopter if the weather holds. Picture this: an offshore oil rig 150 miles from shore, sitting in water deeper than the Empire State Building is tall. A modern semi-submersible like the Paul B. Lloyd Jr. can house 100 to 200 workers, weigh tens of thousands of tons, and cost $500,000 per day just to keep running. As of 2024, approximately 1,470 offshore rigs operate worldwide. The United States Gulf of Mexico alone hosts 125 rigs, directly employing 10,000 to 12,500 workers. These platforms produce nearly 30% of global crude oil output. For the next 10 minutes, forget the drilling. We are talking about the humans keeping it running. Offshore rigs exist because some of the world's largest oil reserves sit miles offshore in water too deep for fixed platforms. Shallow water rigs appeared in the 1940s in the Gulf of Mexico. Then came jackups for intermediate depths, followed by semi-submersibles and drill ships for ultra-deepwater fields discovered in the 1990s and the 2000s, including Brazil's pre-salt, West Africa, and the Deep Gulf. The economic driver is simple. A single offshore well can produce millions of barrels over decades, but only if crews can survive and work in one of the most isolated industrial environments on Earth. And survival starts before you ever set foot on the deck. You apply. You interview. If you are applying to Shell or similar operators, you sit in a conference room and complete the Lost on the Moon exercise. You rank 15 items: oxygen tanks, rope a solar-powered FM receiver, parachute silk by survival value if you crash-landed on the lunar surface 200 miles from your base. There is no right answer. Shell is watching whether you listen, negotiate, defer, or dominate. If you pass, you are hired into a rotation of 14 days on, 14 days off, or 21 days on, 21 days off. Then the physical journey begins. You fly commercial to a coastal staging city such as Houston or Aberdeen. You check into a crew hotel. You wake at 4 a.m. You board a chartered helicopter. A Sikorsky S-92 carries up to 19 passengers and has a range of 539 nautical miles, and an Airbus H225 carries up to 24 passengers. The flight can take 90 minutes over open ocean. You are wearing a survival suit. If you ditch, you have minutes before hypothermia sets in. The North Sea alone sees nearly 2 million helicopter passengers annually across 16 bases. You land on the helideck. The noise is overwhelming. You are here for 3 weeks. And the first thing you'll notice isn't the drilling, it's the galley. Forget the derrick and blowout preventer for now. We're talking about the infrastructure that keeps 100+ people alive. Start with living quarters. Shared cabins with 2 to 4 roommates, sometimes 4 to 12 on older rigs. Bunk beds, shared bathrooms. Some rigs schedule roommates on opposite shifts, so each worker gets solo room time for a few hours per day. You sleep while your roommate works nights. He sleeps while you work days. You might never see each other awake. Supervisors get private rooms. The Floatel Safe Scandinavia, operating in the Norwegian North Sea, can house 583 people in worldwide configuration, or 292 in single-bed Norwegian welfare standard. Privacy is the #1 complaint. Now the galley. Dedicated 24-hour kitchen operations, with multiple chefs working day and night shifts. 3 full meals daily, plus 24-hour snack availability. Catering budgets range from $4 to $20 per person per day worldwide. The galley crew, including the catering manager, the head cook, and the night cook and baker, wields outsized influence over morale. One worker with 26 years offshore experience said he has sent more people home on boats because they could not handle it than he can count. Poor food is frequently cited. For Offshore Thanksgiving in 2025, galley crews prepared full turkey, ham, and dessert spreads even in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. Workers documented it on TikTok. Medical and communication systems matter just as much. Every rig has a sick bay with an emergency medical technician or paramedic on board, not a doctor. Serious cases require medical evacuation by helicopter, 4 evacuations per 1,000 workers annually on average globally. A Gulf of Thailand study found influenza accounted for 20% of medical evacuations, injury 7%, chickenpox 5.5%, and fractures among the other top causes. A medical evacuation can take hours or days depending on weather. Communication has transformed. Before the mid-1990s, workers got one 6-minute phone call per week via two-way radio. Now, modern rigs have Wi-Fi via low Earth orbit satellites like Starlink and OneWeb. Workers FaceTime their families between shifts. As of 2023, only 610 offshore rigs had satellite connectivity, but data needs are projected to grow from 21 megabits per second per month in 2020 to 200 megabits per second by 2030. The isolation is spatial, not digital anymore. Offshore oil rig workers are 7 times more likely to die on the job than the average American worker, with 27.1 deaths per 100,000 offshore workers versus 3.8 per 100,000 for the general United States workforce. Between 2003 and 2010, 128 employees died working on United States gas or oil rigs, including the Deepwater Horizon disaster. According to the United States Occupational Safety and Health Administration, 3 in 5 fatalities are caused by struck by, caught in or caught between hazards during drilling, lifting, or maintenance. But here is the twist. Non-occupational illness causes more medical evacuations than injuries. Cardiovascular events, chest pain most common, gastrointestinal issues, dental emergencies. The body breaks down under 12-hour shifts over 14 to 28 consecutive days. Contractor personnel are more likely to require evacuation than direct employees. Layers of protection exist. Mandatory safety drills include lifeboat, fire, and blowout response. No alcohol or non-prescription drugs are allowed. Smoking is restricted to designated zones far from equipment. Safety matches only, no lighters. Helicopter survival suits are required for every crew change flight. But the rig's biggest threat is not mechanical failure or weather, it is the people. This is the heart. The 12-hour shift rhythm runs from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. every day for 14 to 21 days straight. No weekends, no sick days, no quitting until the helicopter comes. Workers stay on the same shift day or night for the entire rotation. In the United States Gulf of Mexico, the average salary is $96,884 per year as of 2024. Nicknames are universal: Cookie for cooks, Roughnecks for drill crew, Roustabouts for junior maintenance workers, Biker Mike for the Harley-riding roustabout everyone knows. The rig manager has formal authority, but the galley chef controls morale. The roommate lottery is real. You might share a cabin with someone you never see awake because you are on opposite shifts. 1 bed, 2 users, rotating 12-hour windows. Some workers say it is easier that way with less social navigation. Recreation and downtime fill the gaps. Gyms, some with full CrossFit setups built into the legs of tension leg platforms. Movie theaters, game rooms with ping pong, pool tables, dartboards, and video game consoles. The Safe Scandinavia Flotel has a 172 square meter gym with life fitness equipment, a sauna, and an internet cafe. Workers lift weights, watch movies, text their families via satellite Wi-Fi, and wait. The psychological cost is real. One worker reported hearing his child born over the phone instead of being present. A 2021 British medical journal systematic review found rotation workers show poorer sleep, more fatigue, higher rates of smoking, alcohol use during off-rotation, and overweight and obesity compared to the general population. A Persian Gulf study linked shift work disorder to insomnia, daytime sleepiness, and depression among Iranian offshore workers. But there is an upside. Workers on 21 days on, 21 days off, or 28 days on, 28 days off rotations have massive blocks of leave. High pay plus 3 weeks off means some workers travel extensively, pursue hobbies, or run side businesses during their off rotation. The interpersonal intensity is extreme. You eat every meal with the same 100 people. You sleep 6 feet from a stranger. You cannot leave. This is why Shell tests moon survival arguments. Technical skills matter, but social endurance is the real filter. If this story is gripping you, hit subscribe and drop a comment, and tell us what part of rig life we should unpack next. A modern semi-submersible rig costs $500,000 per day to operate. 1 day of downtime equals the annual public works budget of a small American town. Every medical evacuation, every supply delay, every mechanical failure halts revenue. Helicopter economics. Leasing a Sikorsky S-92 costs $100,000 to $115,000 per month as of 2019, down from $240,000 per month in 2014. The offshore helicopter services market was valued at $3.29 billion in 2024 and is projected to reach $5.11 billion by 2032. Fresh food, mail, spare parts, drilling fluid additives, all flown or boated in weekly. One forgotten valve gasket can idle a rig for days, while a supply vessel makes the 12-hour round trip. The human cost is hidden in the day rate. A catering manager earns $60,000 per year. A head cook earns $44,000 per year. A night cook and baker earns $40,000 per year. Multiply those positions across more than 100 crew members. Add rotation logistics, insurance, and medical evacuation standby contracts, and the soft costs rival the hardware. 3 myths need busting fast. Myth 1. Offshore rig workers are all roughnecks doing dangerous manual labor. Reality: a modern rig employs catering staff, electricians, crane operators, medics, IT technicians managing satellite networks, marine crew, and safety coordinators. The cook and the data analyst are as essential as the driller. Myth 2. The ocean is the biggest danger. According to United States Occupational Safety and Health Administration data, most fatalities come from struck by, caught in, or caught between incidents, equipment failures, lifting accidents, and maintenance errors. Meanwhile, non-occupational illness, including cardiovascular events, infections, and dental emergencies, drives more medical evacuations than traumatic injuries. The danger is chronic, not cinematic. Myth 3. Offshore workers are isolated and out of touch. As of 2024, workers on modern rigs video call their families via Starlink, browse social media, post TikToks of Thanksgiving dinners at sea, and coordinate their off-rotation travel plans in real time. The isolation is spatial, not digital, but the psychological gap remains. One engineer in the 1970s got 6 minutes on the radio per week. Today's worker FaceTimes his daughter's recital and still missed it. So what does surviving the moon actually teach you? Shell does not care whether you would choose the oxygen tank or the rope first. They care whether you can negotiate with someone you will share a bathroom with for 3 weeks while the galley runs out of fresh vegetables and the medical evacuation helicopter is grounded by weather. The moon exercise is a compressed simulation of offshore life. Isolated, high stakes, and dependent on strangers you did not choose. Here is the final beat. Every offshore rig is a test of human endurance disguised as industrial infrastructure. The hardware, blowout preventers, dynamic positioning, and drilling fluid systems gets the attention. But the real engineering challenge is keeping 100 people sane, safe, fed, and functional in the middle of nowhere, 21 days at a time, with no way out until the helicopter comes. And when it does, you fly back to shore. Sleep in your own bed, see your family, and count down the days until you fly back out. Because for all the isolation, the shared beds, the galley food, and the medical evacuation risk, offshore work pays. And for some, the rhythm of 21 on, 21 off is the only life that makes sense. Subscribe for more deep dives. Thanks.